This is Deep Time Detective, and today we're solving a mystery. Giant fungi.
Today, we're going to take a trip back in time. Way, way back. We're going to a lost world. A planet so alien, so quiet, it pretty much defies our modern imagination. We're going to uncover the story of the very first giants to walk the land. These colossal beings that stood tall long, long before the first tree ever grew.
I want you to really think about that for a second. Every single sound you've ever heard, the wind rustling through leaves, the buzz of a fly, a bird singing, that's the sound of life. But for most of Earth's history, the land was a place of absolute, profound silence.
And into this silent world, something rose up that was just completely bizarre. It wasn't a plant, it wasn't animal. These were giant structures that just dominated the landscape. And that is the mystery we are diving into today. The strange story of Prototaxites, the titans of a world before trees.
So, to really get a handle on these giants, first we need to understand the stage they stood on. Let's try to paint a picture of this strange, ancient Earth. So just forget everything you think Earth looks like. 420 million years ago, the land was basically a sterile desert of rock and mineral dust from pole to pole. The sun just relentlessly beat down on this landscape that had no shade, no soil, and no sound other than the wind.
But life, it's tenacious. And out of all this emptiness, the very first, very humble pioneers began their slow, slow conquest of the land.
Okay, so our story really gets going right after a massive extinction event basically wiped the slate clean. In the millions of years that followed, the first life to get a grip on land wasn't some mighty tree. Nope. It was this thin, humble crust of fungus and bacteria, just slowly dissolving the rock. It was only later that the first real plants, things like Cooksonia, showed up. And this is where it gets kind of absurd. On one hand, you've got the most advanced plants of the day, these tiny, ankle-high little stems. But on the other hand, you have Prototaxites, towering over them at up to 8 meters. That's 26 feet tall. It was, without a doubt, the skyscraper of its time. It makes no sense.
So, you can probably imagine when scientists first found fossils of these things back in the 19th century, they had absolutely no idea what they were looking at. For more than 100 years, this fossil was one of paleontology's greatest puzzles.
The question itself was simple, but the answer was anything but. The fossils looked like tree trunks, right? But they existed in a time period way before trees were a thing. So, what on earth could they be?
Every theory they came up with just hit a major wall. Okay, maybe a primitive conifer? Nope, about 100 million years too early for that. What about a giant seaweed that washed ashore? Well, how would it stand up on dry land? A lichen seemed closer, but a lichen the size of a telephone pole? That was just unheard of. The mystery just kept getting deeper.
The answer, it turns out, wouldn't come from the fossil shape, but from its chemical signature. It really took modern science to finally crack the case.
And here's the big reveal. It wasn't a plant at all. Carbon analysis, done in the early 2000s, showed a chemical signature that just didn't match any photosynthesizing organism. What it did match? A fungus. A single, colossal fungus.
So, how did it even live? Well, Prototaxites was an osmototroph. It didn't eat, it didn't use sunlight. It basically acted like a giant mushroom, just absorbing nutrients directly from the world around it, most likely feeding on those huge microbial crusts that coated the ancient continents. And this wasn't just some brief experiment of nature. For 40 million years, Prototaxites was the largest, most dominant thing on land. 40 million years. That is an almost unbelievably long time to be king of the world. But, as we all know, no reign lasts forever. The end of the age of fungi came with an incredible new evolutionary innovation. A brand new competitor arrived on the scene, the tree. Okay, so let's look at the showdown. Prototaxites was really just a tower of soft, woven tubes. But these new trees? They had invented lignin, which gave them true wood and the structure to grow way, way taller. And, maybe most importantly, where the fungus had a simple little anchor, the trees developed deep, powerful roots that could literally punch into bedrock. And this wasn't just the competition. It was a total planetary takeover. The tree's deep roots broke open rocks, which released a flood of minerals like phosphorus into the oceans. This basically over-fertilized the seas, causing these massive algae blooms that sucked all the oxygen from the water and triggered a mass extinction. On land, the result was clear. The trees won.
They grew taller, they shaded out the fungi, and their deep roots and all their decaying leaves and wood created the world's first deep, rich soil, a foundation the old fungi just couldn't compete in. The pillars of flesh, they were gone forever.
But the story doesn't just end there. The legacy of this ancient battle between fungus and tree is all around us. In fact, it's literally inside of us.
So why does any of this matter to you? Well, the very soil that your food is grown in was started by these ancient pioneers, and the minerals that the tree's roots unlocked from the rock, the calcium, the phosphorus, those are now the building blocks of your own body. They're in your bones, they're in your DNA. You are a direct inheritor of this 400-million-year-old revolution.
You know, the story of Prototaxites is just such a powerful reminder. It ruled the land for a period of time far longer than mammals have even existed, and yet it vanished completely. It just shows us that on the grand scale of Earth's history, no kingdom is forever.
And that kind of leaves us with one final, pretty fascinating question. This strange, forgotten fungus left a legacy that literally built the world we live in. After our own, much briefer time on this planet, what story will be written in the rock for us? Thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed this journey through deep time, like, share, and subscribe, and join us